Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith at TV. It's time for News Central now, and here are the top stories at this hour. Bandits kill 12 persons, abduct many more in major coordinated attack on several communities in Zamfara State. Senate vows to pressure constitute ad hoc committee to oversee emergency rule in Rivers State. Drone strikes hit Port Sudan in third day of attacks. Details shortly. And let's begin the news by telling you that no fewer than 12 people have been killed and an unspecified number abducted in a coordinated attack by armed bandits on several villages in Muru local government area of Zamfara State. Zango Zola Makama, a counterinsurgency expert focused on the Lake Chad region, disclosed this on a post on his X handle on Tuesday. Makama stated that intelligence sources told him the attack occurred Monday at about 1:30 p.m. following a recent operation by Nigerian Army troops of Operation Fansan Yaman, which targeted a bandits' camp in the Dankumi forest. According to the report, the bandits stormed 7 communities in the Dankumi district, killing 12 residents and abducting others to an unknown location. Still on insecurity, weeks after repeated attacks by suspected armed herders left hundreds killed in several communities of Plateau State. Allegations are yet again being made about fresh killings, but this time in Birkin Ladin local government area. Now, the national body of the Birom Youths Moda Association on Monday said another tragic night saw armed attack being perpetrated by suspected ethnic militants in Kakuruk village of Kashi district, and that's in Bakim Ladin local government area, where they reportedly opened gunfire and went as far as hacking 3 persons to death and 4 others injured at about 8:11 p.m. of 4th May 2025, aside another 3 ambushed and shot dead on the 3rd, the night before Monday around NTV, I beg your pardon, of Bakin Ladi local government area. Earlier, we're joined on the news by Solomon Daliop. He is the national president of the Birom Youth Molders Association. For more insight on the fresh killings in Plateau State, take a look.
Even now that we just stepped out of security meeting that was chaired by the Commander of Operation Safe Haven, who doubles as the General Officer commanding 3rd Armored Division, where we have laid down our complaints that, of course, suspected Fulani militants who have taken over the general area of Gashis district, Barkidadi local government, came overnight and opened gunfire on these innocent people who were resting, in their homes. And of course, what actually made us to come up with this allegation is that a day before then, a young man whose farmland was taken over by one of the suspected Fulani militants raised an objection as to the erection of a new structure, a permanent structure on his farmland. And lo and behold, this attack came directly on his own residence. And this one is a pointer to the fact that any time one's land is taken over forcefully and under the occupation of the bandits, and you raise the matter, with the security that this is what is happening, they will definitely come for you. And anytime there is also a mischievous grazing where compensation is compelled on the mischief maker, and you receive such a compensation, be assured that farmland will eventually be destroyed completely, and your own house or your own residence will be invaded. So that is the
Still on security, the executive chairman of Mapo, Muru Local Government Council of Kogi State, Ademola Bello, along with leaders of thought in the area, have met and endorsed the security strategy adopted by the state government to ensure peace in the area. The meeting, which had in attendance the royal fathers and security heads in the local government, was convened to take stock of the security situation in the area and to brainstorm on how to maintain peace and security. The chairman said his administration will leave no stone unturned to ensure security of lives and property in Makba, Muru. Speaking on behalf of the traditional rulers, the chairman of the Traditional Council and the Elulu of Mopa, and that's King Muyiwa Ibiom, condemned, or rather commended, the council chairman for his commitment to security. In other matters, the Senate has constituted an 18-member committee tasked with overseeing the activities of the sole administrator of Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibok Ite Ibas, retired. Now, the move aims to strengthen transparency and accountability in the governance of the state. The committee, chaired by Senate leader Senator Okpeyemi Bamidele, was announced by the Senate President, or rather the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, during the resumption of plenary. Other members of the committee include Senators Adamu Alioro, Osita Izunaso, Osita Egwo Southeast, Kaka Shehu, Aminu Abbas, Tokumbo Abiru, Adeniyi Adebiri from Ondo, Sani Musa, Simon Lalong, Asuko Okpeyong, Adams Roshomole, Ireti Kigibi of Labour Party, Oyekachi, Idiat Adebule, Ide Dafinone, and Mohammed, and also that's from APC Jigawa, alongside the clerk of the Senate. The Senate charged the committee to commence its oversight duties without delay, stressing the urgency of their assignment. News Central's correspondent Sagir Ibrahim joined us earlier for an update on the Senate's resumption of plenary. Take a look.
Yes, as you know, the Senate, in fact, the National Assembly resumed from a long recess, to observe the Eid and, of course, the Easter celebration. So it's resuming today after up to more than a month of recess. You recall that before the National Assembly went on that recess, they had approved the emergency rule by the President regarding the state of emergency in Rivers State. The President had written to the House of Representatives and also the Senate, sending a gazetted copy of Order 305, of the Constitution, so as for them to okay it. Now, when that was done, some recommendations following the approval came, including setting up an ad hoc committee by both chambers. Now, it was supposed to be, of course, a joint ad hoc committee comprising members from both the House of Representatives and also the Senate, as the case may be. But for some reason, the Senate, since they, of course, gave credence to the President, giving him go-ahead, for the emergency rule, failed to set up its own committee, even though the House of Representatives had done it, ever since then. And of course, remember the breaking story that followed the House of Representatives committee, ad hoc committee on the Rivers State Sole Administratorship, summoning the Rivers State Sole Administrator of the House of Representatives to appear before that committee. Now, it is that committee that was set up by the House of Representatives to oversee administration in Rivers State that has now also been set up in the Senate to ensure the same thing. So this way, that there is now balance. So the House of Representatives has a committee, the Senate also has a committee. Now, it's left to be seen whether this committee is going to be at one point or another joined together to form a joint committee to ensure proper oversight on the sole administratorship of Rivers State.
Let's go to a short break, shall we? When we return, there's plenty more. We've got business, sports, and of course, so much more. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. The outgoing African Development Bank President, Akinwumi Adesina, has come under fire for his recent comments on Nigeria's post-independence development. Presidential aide Bayo Onanuga criticized Adesina's claim that Nigerians are worse off today than in 1960, calling it, quote, based on figures that do not align with available data, end quote. In a post on X on Monday, Onanuga challenged Adesina's comparison of GDP per capita between 1960 and 2025, describing it as both flawed and misleading. He cited data indicating that Nigeria's GDP in 1960 stood at $4.2 billion with a population of 44.9 million, putting per capita income at just $93. Onanuga also noted that significant economic growth only began in the 1970s, largely driven by oil revenue. And now joining us now is Peter Ameh, the Secretary of the Coalition of United Political Parties. And he joins us to give a bit more critique following the criticism by the presidential aide. Mr. Ameh, thank you so much for joining us. And let's just get started, shall we? The poverty in the country today is worse than we've seen. I mean, from 2022, when the report of about 70% of Nigeria's population is entrenched in multi-dimensional poverty, and that is about 135 million people. And that was 2002. The price of food have changed since then. The price of fuel has changed since then. And even though the minimum wage have increased, the realities on the streets is still dire. I mean, so how true is this claim that from 1960 to 2025 is basically unfair to compare the two, to put a comparison between the two times?
No, I don't know. My network is actually fluctuating, but the fact is still remain that what Adesina said is actually true. And if you look at our reality and what we are facing, and look at the data from UNICEF and the data from World Bank, you know at the time there was they said 129 Nigerians, about 56% of Nigeria were facing multidimensional poverty. Today, the current data says that about 54% of Nigerians are in abject poverty. Then you look at 75.5% in rural community living in abject poverty, and 41.3% in urban communities having the same poverty. So the failure for the APC government to also accept verifiable data as a means of trying to look at benchmark to be able to adjust the downward spiral of the country's economic development, to be able to arrest the bad leadership that has, brought us to this level, and looking at how to invest more in agriculture, whereas one of the shortest gestation period to be able to take Nigeria out of poverty, it baffles me. Because if not because they are interested in trying to score political points, in trying to make everything look like politics, and then in trying to entrench personal interest over collective welfare of the Nigerian people, I think this advice from Adesina and every other person that has sincere concern for the development of this country should be taken serious by anybody in government. They are holding power in trust for the people. It is not about who is contesting what and who is the antagonistic what. It's about who is bringing the best idea to bear on how to be able to do proper investment and take Nigeria to more progressive form of investment, right, from so much over-reliance, dependence on oil products.
Mr. Ameh, I mean, two things to take away there from is, the political posturing, but most importantly, the disdain and the intolerance for dissent, as we've seen completely with this administration. But we're going to get into that, and just to make a case for the government, right? We've seen rhetorics from whether it's Wale Edu or the Minister of, whichever who is in charge of finance. I've always said that, Nigeria is, with all of the metrics, I mean, from the IMF and every other World Bank who looks at the metrics in terms of our economy, would say that we're staring towards and looking more attractive for investors to come in. So would you say that it's, somewhat fair, given the dynamics that they find that this government adopted this government and the state of the country, and they're trying to do the best that they can to salvage the situation and steer the country back and its economy back to boosting more yields for the people of Nigeria?
No, we are not seeing any deliberate plan, towards attracting foreign investment, and that's why we have contested the fact that they should show us the data of how many investment. Look at the level of businesses that have closed. These are public verifiable data. Businesses that are closing down because of multiple taxation, lack of proper framework for electricity development in this safe sector. So we have a situation where government does not have a plan. When government policy is not driving towards encouraging both foreign and local investors to come and invest, the security issue is also very paramount. We must take that into consideration, because without proper security measures, without safety of life and property, you have no more people coming to invest. So the government have a lot of work to do. And I think that the best thing for the government to do is not to see everybody that speak about the interest of this country, that offer genuine solution, and then try to do comparison. Do they know the worth of the naira to the dollar in comparison to what additional have talked about? Do they know how much is the naira to the dollar today? Do they know what is the worth of 70,000 take-home pay of every civil servant? It is worthless, because you can see that you had a policy, irrational policy implementation process that actually further deepen and push more Nigeria into poverty than any time in the life of any administration. So if the government is not willing to sit down to look at proper measures and proper things to do, to be able to look at rural poverty, look at minority children and what to be provided to be able to take them out of poverty, and they are still denying the current reality of the Nigerian state without trying to bring out professionals and experts who have managed international bodies like Adjourned to come and discuss with them. And what they see is politics. They see everybody who is speaking as somebody who wants to take their job. So these are not people who are interested in the economic development of this country. Right. They are not interested in the holistic view of the economic situation that has made more Nigerians push more Nigeria into poverty. But they are more interested in protecting a job that serves only the interest of those who are in government, that serves the interest of those who be able to put money where to not have positive effect on the life of the people. Because if you have put more money into removing ourselves from the monoproduct economy that we are running today, and look at the gestation period for the agricultural investment project, then we would have had more better opportunity to create jobs and create food for our teeming population. Mr.
Ameh, you are the secretary of the Coalition of United Political Parties, and yourself and and COP have been very vocal about critiquing this government. I want you to talk about what we're seeing in terms of intolerance for dissent and anything that doesn't align with the language or the rhetoric from the federal government, or whether it's AIDS or the federal government or federal might, is seen completely as not falling in line, and so this heavy language, or this clamming down and just going straight for the jugular, and we see that. Let's talk about that intolerance and what it means for our democracy in present day. Very quickly, because we're out of time.
Yeah. No, look, it is crystal clear that this government is not interested in expanding and deepening the democratic space for people to participate, for people to have their voice heard as enshrined in the Section 39 of the Constitution of Nigeria. It is crystal clear that what this government is interested in shrinking the political space to be able to have more power to themselves and oppress as many people as possible. Because if you look at even the tone of their press release, it is not does not show that it's a government that is meant for the people, a government that listens to the advice of its own citizens, because they have seen themselves as a government unto its own self that is only responsible and only responds to their own yearnings and their own opinion. So any other person's opinion must be crushed and must be looked. They will look for any possible way to intimidate those people from not having, the free will to speak. So this is a democracy, and the government must understand that they hold this power and trust on behalf of the people, and this power should be used for the benefit of the people. And every Nigerian, whether home and abroad, speaking is speaking so that Nigerians can take his position in the Committee of Nations and to be able to start to be the leading nation, a leading nation in the global economic market. So we cannot have this kind of the size of land we have, the strength of our population based as is the data speaks for our youth, and then we have this poverty spreading across our length and breadth of our nation that is not being caught because we have a government in place that is intolerant and does not understand the sacred principle of democracy.
Mr. Ameh, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. Mr. Peter Ameh is the Secretary for the Coalition of United Political Parties for Nigeria. Once again, thank you for your insights and, of course, your comments. We appreciate you. Let's switch gears now to talk politics and governance, as 22 members of the State House of Assembly from the PDP, including Mr. Speaker, have officially defected to the All Progressives Congress, APC. At the Tuesday plenary, Speaker Emimo Timi Guo gave reasons for their defections, making the 29 lawmakers of the House APC members. Now, 6 members of the House of Representatives from Delta State have also defected from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the All Progressives Congress, APC. The notice of defection were read by the Speaker of the House, Tajuddin Abbas, during plenary on Tuesday. The lawmaker representing Ika Northeast, Ika South Federal Constituency of Delta State, Victor Onwokolo, who moved from the PDP to the APC, while Julius Pondi, representing Burutu Federal Constituency, left the PDP for the APC. Similarly, Thomas Iri Yotomi, who represents Warri North, Warri South, Warri West Federal Constituency, moved from the PDP to the APC. Nicholas Motu, a PDP member representing Bomadi Patani, joined the ruling party along with his Isoko North, Isoko South counterpart, and that is Uko Diku Jonathan. A first-time member representing Ndukwa Unkwani Federal Constituency, and that's Ezechi Nnamdi, also moved from the PDP to the APC. Interesting times. Moving on now to the judiciary, where the trial of Indigenous People of Biafra leader Nnamdi Kanu has been adjourned to May 7th. The adjournment came after the second prosecution witness took the stand, but the proceedings were interrupted. The prosecution could not continue the examination because key documents had not been served on the defense or the court. Presiding Judge Justice James Omotosho, however, adjourned the matter, giving the prosecution time to properly serve the documents before the next hearing. Earlier, Counsel for Nnamdi Kanu provides an update on the trial's latest developments.
He started his testimony after the introductory. The prosecution realized that they couldn't go on because the documents they wanted to rely on were not served on the defense. And indeed, the court doesn't even have copy. So the court agreed to their suggested adjournment for tomorrow so that the documents will be served on the defense. And even as upon the service, what will happen tomorrow is just for the examination-in-chief of PW to continue. And then we will take our time, look at documents, and then commence our cross-examination of PW2. Okay. But in the main, like I always say, it is moving on swiftly.
Meanwhile, there was a mild drama on Tuesday at the resumption of the trial of Nnamdi Kanu as the presiding judge barred Kanu's sister-in-law from 3 sittings. The woman, identified as Favor Kanu, was accused of recording court proceedings during a previous sitting and allegedly publishing same online. Justice James Omotosho recounted how he had previously warned Kanu and refrained from citing her for contempt. Consequently, Counsel for the IPOB leader, Kanu Agabi, appealed to the judge for forgiveness on her behalf, quoting the Bible and admitting that she owed the court an apology. Favor, when called upon, claimed ignorance of the court still being in session and stated that she had stopped recording immediately after the warning. Justice Omotosho, however, excused Favor from attending the next 3 sittings. He also reiterated the need for order and respect for the court's processes. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has confirmed that popular social media activist, and that's Martin Oshe, widely known as Very Dark Man, VDM, has been granted administrative bail. EFCC spokesperson Dele Oyewale, while speaking to newsmen, stated he will be released once he meets the bail condition, but emphasized that the agency would take the case to court as soon as possible. According to him, VDM's arrest followed multiple petitions submitted by various individuals alleging misconduct. VDM's arrest triggered a strong backlash online, with many accusing the commission of engaging in a crackdown on dissent. The local government council chairman of Garko, Bokiru, and Kibia and Rano local government areas located in Kano State have met with the families of the hunters allegedly killed at Urroi in Delta State, urging them to wait for government's promise to ensure justice for the deceased. This was as they held a mandatory 40-day prayer for the deceased hunters with a protest at the Kibia local government secretariat alleging that government is handling the matter with kids' gloves as no suspect is yet to be paraded over the crime.
Its essence, and every day that passes deepens the pain of this family. Furthermore, we ask the federal government and the government of Edo State to stand by their word of commitment made during and after the incident. It is essential that justice is not only done but seen to be done promptly, fairly, and transparently. We have also noted reports that some suspects have been apprehended and transferred to Abuja. While this is commendable, we look forward to a public and transparent trial that will serve as deterrent to others and impose the rules of law in our country. Lastly, I wish to call on civil society organizations, human rights groups, and the general public to lend their voices and monitor the process closely. The involvement of independent actors will further guarantee fairness, accountability, and the trust of the people. The pain of losing loved one is immeasurable, but with justice, compassion, and collective effort, we can begin to offer this family a path to healing.
You're watching news now on News Central Television. Coming up, the news continues in Eastern Africa, where drones on Tuesday struck the airport and cut power across Fort Sudan in South Sudan. More after this break. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. And it's off to Eastern Africa, where drones on Tuesday struck the airport and cut power across Fort Sudan. The third straight day the Sudanese army-aligned government's seat of power has come under attack. The strikes, which also targeted an army base, come a day after Sudan's main fuel depot was hit, causing a massive blaze just south of the eastern city, which had until Sunday been considered a haven for hundreds of thousands of displaced people fleeing the two-year war. Local sources reported loud explosions at dawn and plumes of smoke over the Red Sea coastal city. The RSF has not claimed the attacks about 650 kilometers from its nearest town, known positions on Khartoum's outskirts.
الناس قاصديننا نحن يعني قاصدين منو بالضبط كده بالطريقه اللي بتحصل ده. حسي دي ممتلكات المواطن، الجاز بتاع المواطن، البنزين بتاع المواطن، الكهرباء بتاعت المواطن. يعني نحن عارف ده في شنو بالضبط كده دار يوصلونا لوين يعني. فده دار نعرفه نحن. هسه حاليا الحركه في السوق زي ما شايفين قال يعني ما الحركه دي ما حركه طبيعيه. الناس بدات تخاف. في الناس القراب من الجنوب الجنوبيه اللي هم ناس ترانسيد وناس ديم سواكن وهناك بدوا خلاص ينزحوا باعتبارهم بدوا ينزحوا يعني الناس بقت تخاف ودخل سعر زي ما لكن هسه الحاصل اللي بدا يحصل في فورت سودان ده نحن لو ده مستهدف المواطن يعني الليله ما في اي حد.
And off to Southern Africa, where Malawians are currently weighing the leadership of records of former President Peter Mutharika and incumbent President Lazarus Chakwera ahead of the next presidential election. Now, this evaluation spans several key performance indicators, including governance, economic management, social policies, and overall national impact. The comparison is significant as both Mutharika and Chakwera was widely expected to be the main contenders in the upcoming polls. Many analysts point to stronger economic performance under Mutharika's previous administration. According to the Consumer Price Index in 2014, when he took office, Malawi's inflation rate, stood at 23.7%. By 2019, his government had reduced it to a single-digit rate of 9.4%. And now to unpack this, we're joined by independent political analyst Wanda Truche, who joins us live from Zoba in Malawi. Wanda, many thanks for doing this with us. Let's get started. Beyond the two main figures, what role do you see other potential candidates or political forces playing in influencing voter sentiment and the overall election outcome? Let's start there. Wanda, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, did you get my question?
Hello, yes.
All right, go ahead, please.
Yes, indeed, we are going to have, hello?
Please go ahead, loud and clear. Continue, we can hear you.
Yes, indeed, in September, we are going to have elections, and the two leading candidates are President Lazarus Chakwera and the opposition leader, Peter Mutharika. Of course, these two are providing two fundamentally different political promises. As we all know, the previous government was held by Peter Mutharika, but still, some people feel that President Chakwera has not performed as he promised. And some people are looking forward to say maybe we can go back to Peter Mutharika. But then the issues that's influencing this election include the inflation rate, which has gone high, and it has affected the price of goods and services. And for the past few months, there was a fuel problem, which seems to be starting again. So all those are providing people with an idea of which candidates to go for. But for now, we cannot tell who is going to win the elections. But the race is indeed between these two leading candidates.
All right, it looks like a two-man horse race. But I do have to ask, what are the key issues that you believe will dominate, voter concerns and ultimately influence the decision-making in the next election?
Of course, we can think of the economy part and also the politics side. But we can also not underrate the tribal vote because Malawi politics is more about tribal vote. And these two candidates have a huge tribal following in the central region of the country and also in the southern region. But what is making President Chakwera unpopular is because when he was taking over as the president, he promised a lot. One of the things is to do away with the corruption, which has not been successful. He also promised to give people employment, which is not the case. And he also talked about the prices of goods that the government is going to look into that, but those things have not happened. So people are looking for alternatives. Unfortunately, the alternative we have now is the money they borrowed out of government 5 years ago. And even Peter Mutharika has not fully packaged himself to be an attractive candidate for this election. So this is where Malawians are between the rock and the hard place in terms of choosing the best candidate for this year's elections.
Right. And lastly, what are the potential wild cards or unexpected events that could significantly impact the political landscape between now and the election?
As we all know, in June last year, we lost the Vice President, Dr. Saulos Chidima. His death is still going to influence the upcoming elections. Some of his supporters, the late Chidima, think that President Chakwera had a hand in the death of the Vice President. So whenever the party that the Vice President had, UTM, is going to be conducting its campaign rallies, the name of Saulos Chidima is going to be coming up, and people are still sympathetic to the UTM and also against the president simply because of what happened. So whenever we are looking at the upcoming elections, besides the political and also the economic factors, the death of the vice president should be a wild card that we should look forward to. That is also going to massively influence people's choices.
Well, let's only time will tell. Keep our fingers crossed, and all eyes are on Malawi at this time. But I must say thank you, Wanda, for taking out the time to join us. Wanda is an independent political analyst all the way from Malawi, giving us a bit of insight following presidential elections coming in some months' time. Well, still ahead on the news. Canada's Prime Minister and U.S. President Donald Trump will meet at the White House. We'll tell you the details of this and more just after the break. Still. Welcome back. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney held highly anticipated talks with Donald Trump at the White House on Tuesday amid tensions over the U.S. president's tariffs and threats of annexation. Trump slammed Canada on Truth Social for effectively freeloading off the United States just minutes before greeting the recently re-elected Carney outside the West Wing. Now, Trump, during the meeting, said that Canada joining the U.S. as a 51st state would be, quote, a wonderful marriage. Carney, in response, told the U.S. president that Canada is, quote, not for sale and won't be for sale ever, end quote. Germany has a new chancellor as conservative leader, Friedrich Merz, secured a victory in a second-round parliamentary vote following a surprise setback earlier in the day. Friedrich Merz was officially elected chancellor after German lawmakers cast their votes in a dramatic second-round ballot on Tuesday. Now, he secured 325 votes in favor with 289 against, enough to cinch or clinch an absolute majority and seal his leadership. Now, earlier in the day, he suffered a shock defeat in the first round of voting, making a historic first in post-war Germany. The unexpected outcome triggered hours of tense negotiations among political parties before the Bundestag reconvened. The second round win ends the uncertainty and sets the stage for Merz to begin forming his government and outlining his policy direction.
Mitgliederzahl 613, abgegebene Stimmzettel 618, ungültige Stimmzettel 3. Mit Ja haben gestimmt 325 Abgeordnete. Mit Nein haben gestimmt 289 und Enthaltung 1. Es ist noch Zeit zum Applaudieren gleich. Ich beende gerade die Feststellung. Der Abgeordnete Friedrich Merz hat die erforderliche Mehrheit von mindestens 316 Stimmen erreicht. Er ist gemäß Artikel 63 Absatz 2 des Grundgesetzes zum Bundeskanzler der Bundesrepublik Deutschland gewählt worden.
All mobile phone signals are set to be deactivated in the Vatican on Wednesday tomorrow ahead of the secretive conclave to elect the next pope. The Vatican also plans to use signal jammers around the Sistine Chapel to stop electronic surveillance or communication outside the conclave, where 133 cardinals vote to decide who will be succeeding Pope Francis. Phone signals will be deactivated at 3 p.m. local time on Wednesday, an hour and a half before the cardinals are scheduled to proceed to the 16th chapel to start the papal conclave. Now, on Monday, the Vatican announced that all 133 cardinals who will vote to decide the successor of Francis have reached Rome. Nigeria's economic crisis deepens as Brent crude prices fall below $60, jeopardizing the 2025 budget and straining foreign reserves, with the naira weakening past 1,600 naira to the dollar and inflation rising. Temitope Kolade, Associate Director, Oil, Gas and Power, Bandits in Nigeria, expressed concern that the government may resort to borrowing during crisis, which could negatively impact salaries and social spending, emphasizing that borrowing has historically failed to solve underlying issues.
For this sort of deficits, salaries could suffer for it, but in the recent past we've not had that in Nigeria. We've got capital projects also that sometimes could be delayed, and that's almost apparent with the situation of things going forward. We might think about social spending also as we maybe plan towards the next election and people are already starting some sort of political activities. You might just expect that maybe the government would really not care so much about slowing down on those social spending because they want that political buy-in from very many people to ensure that the ruling class continues to have their way. So there might be that resort to still trying to get things going by way of borrowing, but that will definitely not give us a lasting solution to the issues that we have.
Remo Stars ladies head coach Wemimo Olarewaju Matthew is proudly representing Nigeria at the CAF Women Instructors Development Workshop in Ethiopia from the 5th to the 9th of May. Fresh off leading her team to their debut in NWFL Premiership Super 6, Wemimo's selection highlights a growing influence in African women's football. Since joining Remo Stars ladies in October of 2023, she has guided the team through an unbeaten 2024-25 NWFL season run, earning multiple Coach of the Month honors and Best Coach of the first round. A former assistant coach for the Super Eagles and Falconets, Wemimo is celebrated for her tactical brilliance and leadership. Her participation underscores Nigeria's ongoing contribution to advancing women's football coaching on the continent. Ronaldo's eldest son has been called up to Portugal under 17s or under 15 squad for the first time. The 14-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo Jr. is at Al Nasser in Saudi Arabia with his father, who signed for the Pro League club in December of 2022. Portugal great Ronaldo posted a picture on social media of his son's name on the national team squad list, along with the message, "Proud of you, son." Ronaldo Jr. has been called up for a youth tournament external in Croatia between 13th to the 18th of May, with Portugal scheduled to play Japan, Greece, and England. Like his celebrated father, he has had stints with Manchester United, Juventus, and Real Madrid. We've seen LeBron James and his son. We've seen Beyonce and Blue, and now Cristiano Ronaldo and his son. Maybe we'll see Lionel Messi and his son as well. Only time will tell. But that's all we can take at this hour. Before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Bandits have killed 12 persons and abducted many more in major coordinated attack on several communities in Zamfara State. Senators bowed to pressure and constituted ad hoc committee to oversee emergency rule in River State. Drone strikes have hit Fort Sudan in third day of attacks. Now do remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Abo TV, and live on YouTube. Now you don't have a chance or an excuse not to watch us. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Bye for now.